Welcome to another edition of the Sunday Soul Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lisa Brewer, and today we have with us Jeremy McDonald, the Storytelling Alchemist. Jeremy has done a number of things: a corporate trainer, a podcaster, radio show host, healer, teacher, but he has such amazing insight into where we are today and how we can get through this time. So we're going to talk together about, are we in a global PTSD? And if we are, how the heck can we get out of it? So sit back and relax and enjoy today's Sunday Soul Podcast. Welcome everyone to another edition of the Sunday Soul Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lisa Brewer, and I have with me today a new friend that I know you guys are going to love this conversation today. I have with me Jeremy McDonald, the Storytelling Alchemist and the author of Peace Be Still. Welcome, Jeremy, to the program.
Thank you, Dr. Brewer. Thank you for having me on the show. How are you today?
I am fabulous. I'm so excited. Please call me Lisa.
Well, you'd have to get it out of the way when you're in a professional when we're having coffee later on, I'll call you.
Okay, no problem.
I'm just messing with you.
No problem. I'm fabulous. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while now. Thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, the Storytelling Alchemist? That is an amazing moniker.
It's funny. I gave this keynote spot on a conference on a cruise, probably like 3 or 4 years ago. And the title was called Spiritual Alchemy. And Activating the Light Body was the secondary title. And a girl that was on the cruise, and she ended up becoming my VA. Mm-hmm. And she said, we were talking about brainstorming about branding. And she said, "You're the Storytelling Alchemist." And I was taken back. I was like, that's such a great name.
Wow.
But where it comes from is I have been studying metaphysics and spirituality, honestly, since I'm 48 now, since I've been about 14 years old. And I really started getting into the psychic and, the healing work and all that kind of stuff. I would have probably been like 22 or 23. But the reason I was, like most of us, I was searching, right? I was looking for answers. And so, but it wasn't till 2006. So we're talking, I'd been studying for years, meditating for years and all this kind of stuff, that I realized that my entire life fell apart. And I called this my first awakening. And by the way, people ask for your awakening moment. There's a lot of them. We have many of them in our lifetime. This is a lifelong process. And so, but losing everything and hitting rock bottom is a great place to start.
Yes, it is.
And so what I started to learn is all these things I was blaming people in the world, or blaming the world for, like the world's happening to me, I had to look at, and then I started to start looking within, the inner journey, right? And so what I was doing is I was starting to transmute my ways of thinking. And you can actually start to realize that the way you would have normally responded to something, you didn't. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. I would have 4 years ago or 10 years ago or 2 years ago, I would have done this. Mm-hmm. And here I'm now doing this. And you start realizing you've been healing. You've been transmuting.
Yes.
And, people get caught up on a lot of words within this world, but really it's all about, you found peace in your life, and it's fairly simple. So what are we doing? We're transmuting the inner story from victim into winner, or from lead into gold, which is alchemy.
That's beautiful. And that's true alchemy, right? Yeah. That's the true alchemy. That is beautiful. That is a beautiful story.
Thank you.
And yes, it is truly, that's why we should really be calling this the awakening process, right? Or we sometimes will use the word ascension process. Mm-hmm. But it is a constant, it is a ever evolving event. It's not static. It flows. Once you have kind of the big, like, right? If we think about it, when we wake up in the morning, we don't just kind of jump up with a start. At least I don't. It's kind of a gradual process to kind of wake up from sleep. In the same way, I feel like that's what we do in our lives in this third dimensional incarnation that we call life. So
playing this human, the soul coming down here in this astronaut suit.
yeah. Yeah, sometimes I wonder why. What was I what was what was I thinking? But I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah,
I wouldn't trade it.
I love it, and it's one of those things now where I look at life and I go, well, it's an adventure. Now, do I have things that happen and emotions? Does the imposter syndrome kick in sometimes? Yeah, of course. That's what it's like being human.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times we're trying to brush that under the rug. No, you're being bad. You're feeling imposter syndrome. You know better than this. And I thought, wait a second. What if I just honored that? What if I just said, you know what? Thanks for bringing me a new nugget of something to look at and
Yes.
to cherish. And, instead of brushing it under the rug, that's like telling a child not to cry because I'll give you something to cry about.
Yeah.
It's hey, by the way, why don't we just stop and say just for a second, hey, what do you need to let me know?
Yeah.
And this, by the way, is not, because I just had this conversation last night. Men out there, can I just say this? It's okay for you to cry. It's okay for you to, matter of fact, it's actually very healthy for you to open up your feelings and to tell the people that you care about that you love them, even if it's hard, and it's going to open you up to better possibilities in your life. And women too. I mean, it's just so to me, if we can look at it, we don't have to be so tough. And so it's okay for us. Matter of fact, to be honest with you, I have a teacher that will get right up on the stage and cry right in front of everybody because she's going through that soulful moment.
Yes.
Because it just rushes in.
Yes.
And instead of holding it back, let it come through.
Yes. It's purging, right? And it's releasing. If you can't release that, first of all, you can't identify it, right? You can't heal it. You can't speak it, in the words of Jan Van Zandt, you can't heal it. And if you don't release it, you can't alchemize it. You have nothing to alchemize or transmute or transform if you're not allowing the energy to come up and well up from and actually bring it out, rather than always putting it down within your being, which causes physical, mental problems as well, not just the static, that emotional issue at that moment.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, one of my favorite sayings from her is pain, pay attention inward now.
Wow.
And so it means that if you have pain in your body, that's the time to stop, go get on the corner of your couch and pay attention and say, what's going on? Matter of fact, last week I threw out my sacrum. And literally, I was a meeting scheduled all day long. And I went straight to my friend, one of my clients and friends is a chiropractor. She did an adjustment, but I spent a good Friday and Saturday in bed doing energy work and working on the internal stuff that was going on. Finally, Sunday morning, I got up. I had 2 clients coming over, and I started moving around the house, and it popped back into place.
Wow.
And so, but what did I have to do? I started going down in there, and that's where the base chakra is at.
Mm-hmm.
And I started unwinding energy in there and started looking at these beach balls coming up, because that's the shadow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And things that I'd forgotten about since I was like 5 years old.
Yeah.
And this feeling that you love your mother and your parents, but there was something that they said to you they were upset because they're human beings, and you've been holding on to it since you were like 5. I'm like, that's a long time. 43 years is a long time to store energy in your body of emotions. So what ends up happening, you start unraveling, and then the pain goes away, and I didn't have to take Advil anymore.
That's amazing.
But here's the thing: is everybody looks and they go symptom management. It's okay. I took Advil for the pain.
Sure.
I had to put ice packs on and stuff like that to bring down the swelling. But while you're doing that, still get in there and look and ask what's going on. Because if there's a physical manifestation of pain in your body or anxiety, there is some kind of emotional or spiritual manifestation going on. So
absolutely. And I think that's a perfect segue, because our topic for today is whether or not the world in and of itself in entirety is going through global PTSD. And honestly, this, if I kind of relate to this, I think we all go through it on an individual consciousness, right? Some forms of PTSD, right? You're carrying this pain in your body post trauma. Post trauma, right? Whatever that trauma was, it's really the root, in essence, of the inner child work. So let's chat a little bit about this potential global PSTD. What do we think about that?
Well, it's interesting because I've been thinking this honestly for about 9 years, but it's got worse in the last 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I was noticing is that you can notice that social media is a great gauge for this. Just go and look on Twitter or on Facebook and see people arguing about some of the smallest different things. I remember one day I put on there just a test. Everybody have a wonderfully peaceful day and you're empowered to live your life the way you see fit. Somebody went on there and said, not for certain circumstances, for certain people in certain ethnic groups, and all that. And I was like, wait, what does my post have anything to do with that? I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying what triggered that in you. And PTSD and what things go on in the shadow. No, by the way, I'm not a doctor or a clinician, so just I'm not diagnosing anybody. But
it's not medical or psychological advice. Please seek help from a counselor for that. Go ahead.
You like that disclosure?
Yeah, thank you.
But basically, the gist of it is that we become reactive to our triggers, as opposed to being proactive to the triggers. So what we were talking about earlier, we were saying, well, this is an opportunity. Well, a lot of people, when we start having this conversation, we talk about a global post-traumatic stress or something like that. I have to act on the truth. And I'm saying, hey, listen, I never said that you didn't have to follow your own truth. What I said is get quiet, get still, and look at your triggers so that when you do speak the truth, it comes from a place of empowerment, not a place of trying to manipulate people into your way of thinking. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is when you do it with empowerment, it comes from the heart, and the full energy system is empowered to be able to speak up. Mm-hmm. And the particular person that was telling me about this, I didn't agree with their way of thinking, but I was like, hey, when we're empowered people, we can have a conversation and a dialogue. This is what Socratic dialogue was all about. And then we can start having an actual adult conversation. So we actually grow this consciousness as opposed to constantly an argument. So the global PTSD is what happens is people are struggling to be able to be heard. And so nobody's listening because we don't have whole people that are having conversations. And so they're just looking at a place of what they're going to lose or what is going on. Like I just saw one earlier, and now I'm not going to bring up the subject because I don't want to bring in that type of energy, but it just made me laugh. I was like, it was a classic sign of what I was like, they're literally arguing back and forth. And so nobody stopped to say, hey, what can we do as a solution? And, one of the things that I say to people all the time is like, well, I don't have anything. I have no empowerment. I said, you have the power of prayer. And people say, prayer? What's that going to do? It's never worked for me before. I said, because you begged the divine. And the divine said, well, when you figure out what you want and you stop begging, and you declare what you want, I'll actually help you, because you have to ask, not beg, and then you should receive.
For those of you listening on the podcast, I just had to pull my church fan out. Now, there's so much here. Okay.
I'm glad I get.
Wow. Okay, so before anybody gets, upset here, we're not attacking. There's no attack here. This is just, we're enlightening at this moment. So I'm going to roll back a little bit, because I feel like this global post-traumatic stress has been caused by the global gaslight.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Most definitely. Gaslighting is a big part of it. Yep.
Yes. So the global gaslight, we tend to right now just point to certain things that, for example, a redefinition of inflation or recession, or someone saying now that high inflation in this country, in the US, is good. or around the world. Oh, that's a good thing. Okay, stop, just stop. That's just a complete gaslight. Just cut it out. Or telling us, or rewriting history, even recent history, and reframing events and just flipping it on its end, right? So this gaslighting that we now, I think, are much more aware of right now. But if we look at it from childhood and beyond, and it's been going on for forever. And I think that prayer, religion, religious beliefs, in the structure of religion, I'm not saying anything about relationship.
No. Yeah.
Because however, creator, source, God, goddess, mother, father, God, however, Buddha, Allah, however, has the divine has revealed themselves to you, is you're well within. That's great. That's awesome. That's what we want. We want you to have a relationship. And that's what it should be about, is be the unification or reunification, or your awareness of the unification between yourself and divine. And we'll go into that a little bit deeper. However, what religion has done, and certain structures and belief systems that have been created has done, is yes, it makes it seem as if prayer is either you're begging, prayer is you're giving away your power. Well, if it's your will, well, why would it not be a divine being's will that is love? If we all agree that God is love, we'll just say God for right now, that God is love, why would it not be the divine being's will for you to live a peaceful, which in the Hebrew means whole and healed, nothing missing, nothing broken? Why would that not be what that entity would want for you? And when you continue to place your power outside of your own divine spark, your own divinity, small d, small g, and place it outside and say, well, some nebulous, well, maybe, I don't know, possibly, you're not coming actually making a statement, right? You're coming saying, I'm not sure, and waffling, and there's nothing that energy can't do anything with it. We can't have creation, manifestation, if you're not sure of what you want to manifest.
What I always say is this.
What are some of the greatest challenges you see with people with their coaching or other type of spirit-based online courses?
They're basically lecturing to them, teaching the way they learn, more of an auditory learner, but it doesn't work for everybody. One of the other issues is it's not engaging and it's not fun.
Now, digital marketing, what I see a lot of, it's the same stuff over and over again, or I don't really understand what their message is. I'm not sure who they're trying to help, what they can help me with, and what energy they're really putting out there. And they don't have a well-defined brand. They've been doing it for forever. It's not updated. And that drives me bananas. And then when they get they can't nurture them all the way through. And then what about closing?
One of the biggest things that kills somebody from closing is they didn't build enough discovery. And then they put them with the wrong product, or they pitch the wrong solution. And then you lose out because you didn't spend enough time culturing the relationship. People buy on emotions and trust.
Register for the High Vibe Business Masterclass October 22nd from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern at www.highvibezwithaz.net. That's www.highvibezwithaz.net.
What I always say is this. I always say, thy will is my will. And then I say, or my will is thy will. It doesn't really matter. And then if I look at something and I see it and I say, if it's in the divine plan, make it easy. Why did it have to be hard? Why did it have to be hard for me to do it? And I'll look at things like the apartment I live in is my dream apartment. And so I looked at it for a year, and I would look at it from a restaurant literally across from the river, and I would say, that or better. And so I wasn't saying I didn't want this apartment. I just say, if you got something better, bring it along, because you got a bigger perspective than I do.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm still declaring it and saying, I want this or better. And because there's nothing that the God or divine said that where you have to live in poverty or in sickness. And some people say, well, what about your contracts? And I'm like, well, of course. And with that being said, you can say, hey, I want it easy, because you might have gotten the lesson already, the lesson that you had in that contract. And you can say, if I don't need to go through this, then why?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of
Mm-hmm.
those things where you can declare. But back to the global PTSD. No, definitely not criticizing. What I'm trying to get at is that if we start to empower ourselves and start
Mm-hmm.
to look within ourselves and start to look at our triggers, then when we stand up to speak truth, whatever that is for our soul, then you'll say it in an empowered state from the heart and
Yes.
in alignment with your soul. And then we'll all be in alignment with our soul. And then we'll start going, huh. So this is how we're going to help with the economy. And maybe we'll go back into the heart where we'll start exchanging, or we won't have any problems with paying for services, that helps another business owner be successful. And then they'll do the same thing for me. And it'll just be because that what we give, we get back 100-fold. So it's interesting. I did this probably about 9 years ago. I said, I'm going to pay off all my bills and I'm going to get everything. My credit score was under 400 and all that other kind of stuff. And I thought, no, I'm not living like this anymore. Well, what I realized is I had such an anger towards creditors and all that other kind of stuff because they were keeping me from doing what I want. Well, what was I doing? Blocking energy.
Yes.
So when I started blessing the debtors or the creditors, and I started paying. I paid what I could. I remember I owed a friend like $2,000, and I said, I'm going to pay you $50 every 2 weeks until I'm paid off. And he says, I'm just glad that you thought about, making sure you decided to resolve this debt. Well, you know what ended up happening? My income tripled over the last 9 years. And so, it's not about jobs or anything like that. It's about decided to start feeding this instead of feeding into this idea that we don't have enough, which is feeding that global post-traumatic stress.
Right.
Then I started saying, well, wait a second, what if I did this? What if I actually met up and grew up and met my obligations, with
Yes.
what I can? And so did that happen overnight? No, it did not. And so now there's just one of those things where you start to look at it. And so when you start changing your inner world, when the war inside ends,
Mm-hmm.
then the war outside ends. And so
Mm-hmm.
now I can think of the last argument I had with somebody. I've had people not agree with it. I've had people be rude to me and I set boundaries and then I just walk away. But if I don't hold on to people that are going to cause trauma in my life,
Yeah.
I speak the truth and I walk away. And a lot of times we resolve it. They come back and they say, hey, and that's your own world. So how you change this global post-traumatic stress is you work on you. And then you have your soul act on what you need to, like Lisa's creating this show and many other great ideas that she has, and so that she's doing her contribution to the world. And so I felt like working on myself and not, this last 2 years, the beginning of COVID, I felt like I was in this ping pong of energy
Yeah.
where I
Yeah.
was being,
Yeah.
and so I thought, wait a second, it talks about the middle path. And so the path gets narrow. Well, what is that? That's the middle part of the yin and yang. There's a little narrow part that you walk, and it's like a dance to stay in balance between the yin and yang. And so the universe will say, swing this way and then swing this, like you're leading yourself in a dance. Well, that's the divine feminine, divine masculine, leading the inner world of you in a synergy. And so what happens is that you dance and you move through it. And sometimes you have to, I just had to call somebody recently and said, hey, listen, I can't do this right now. I need to hold off. And the lesson there was for me is just to speak my truth of something I didn't want to do because I didn't want to disappoint somebody. However, that's a part of, hey, we have to put ourselves as spiritual beings in situations to where we speak our truth and be honest and ethical.
Yeah.
And so, and you know what they said? We'll work it out. We'll figure it out. And,
Yes.
and so these are things that you have to do and face those things. Otherwise, if we continue to brush things under the rug, that brushing under the rug, it comes back somehow.
Yep.
So if you haven't learned the lesson of how to not have narcissistic relationships in your life, narcissists are going to keep on appearing and tell you like, And it's just one of those things. So that's how you start changing the global post-traumatic stress, is by working on you and acting on what your soul thinks you should do. Like, I have one friend that wants to do missionary work and go down into South America and help with medical, giving medical aid and stuff like that. Wonderful. That's what their soul feels like they should do. There's influencers out there on YouTube doing influencing, but there's also the person that works at the grocery store that loves that work and puts a smile on everybody's face that comes through. Everybody has a role, and no role is less important than the other.
No, not at all. And I think, like, you said some things that really hit lately. Like, first of all, I'm going to sit here and say too, as I always say to folks, I'm not perfect. I'm still learning. I'm still human. I'm still a spiritual being having the human experience, a divine being having a human experience. And even just the other day at the time, actually it was just yesterday at the time of this recording, I had a pretty stern, strong conversation. My energy was not good with someone that's very, very dear to me. And even just hearing you now, I'm recognizing, and I've been recognizing this overnight, that reaction and that energy I gave this individual was a result of post-traumatic, right? It was a post-traumatic response to a trigger, because this scenario, what was happening was so similar to so many other things that have happened over and over and over again in my past. And it was like I had just run out of patience, because I've been trying to like navigate this. But now, as I'm even listening to you now, I'm realizing I feel like I've spoken my truth, or I feel like I've been open as to this is how these things have affected me. But I don't think that realizing my reaction yesterday, I evidently haven't. So I've let this relationship kind of cross some boundaries. That's not on them. That's on me.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if I apologized last night, of course, but now when I talk to this person today, I'm going to have to go even a little bit deeper and say, okay, I need you to understand we have that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
Let me help you understand why I had this reaction. Not your fault. And then let's talk this further through, right? Because on both sides, there are probably some things that can be worked on. But I'm going to take my own responsibility, because their life, their walk, their growth is their responsibility. I think a lot of times as healers, teachers, mentors, coaches, just people in general, especially empathic people, we take on everybody else's. So that adds to our own stress, right? Not only are we dealing with our own post-traumatic crap, but now we're taking on everybody else's crap and feeling like we've got to like be in there and doing surgery all the time, and we don't.
And I always say especially in my partners, like, lovers and stuff like that, I always say to the universe, I don't want to be their coach or their healer. No, that's not what I'm here for. I mean, we're here. They're here as somebody I can go out on dates with and go to the movies with, or go to expos with and stuff like that, or travel with. Obviously we grow from our relationships, but it's just one of those things where because I ended up being every one of my lovers' healer. And I thought, that's called being codependent. It's great practice. Great practice for me. And with that being said, I just started telling the universe, send me somebody that, I can enjoy and have a good time with and have intimacy with and that kind of stuff. I don't want to have somebody that I'm trying to fix. And that's what ends up happening is we get into these friendships and relationships. I used to be jokingly made fun of because I always had people crashing on my couch.
Me too.
And until the last few years, and I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, because as empaths, we have to have time, and spiritual people, we have to have quiet. We have to have a sanctuary.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have this issue. I've gotten really kind of energy sensitive.
Yes.
Where the smallest little noise, I'll be like, what was that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, so people could not even be doing anything wrong. And they're starting to grate on my nerves, which is an opportunity. And for me, it was the opportunity to say, I want to live alone.
Absolutely.
Unless I have a partner that is in sync with me.
Right.
So,
Right.
but,
And I think we need to do that in all of our relationships, right? Because I'm tired of, I'm willing to help, but we don't need fixer uppers. And so even the individual I'm talking about, they're not a fixer upper at all. But honestly, what's helping me is I'm getting a whole lot from this, right? And learning so much more about me and how it, taking care of me. And then, okay, how does this then fit into this relationship? Right. And how does this fit into this partnership, this friendship, whatever the case may be? I don't care if it's your family or whatever. Like, if it's like just, we have to flow. So
puppies.
I want to, yes, sorry about the dog. That's Apollo the dog, guys, the Apollo the pit bull, letting me know that the rest of the family has now come home. Of course, I wouldn't know that from hearing voices. Anyway, so in this global, because I think what we're going to have to do is we're definitely going to have to do a part 2 to this. But let's talk a little bit about it. You mentioned this before, the individual. What can we as individuals do then in helping the whole global? Like, what are a couple actionable steps do you think that we could be taking right now to help in the global scheme?
One of the things I would say before you act on anything is check within. I always said, Ben, every night I'll stop and I'll say, all right, is this what I need to do? And if I get a yes, and people say, well, what do you mean? How do you show? Are you going to get an immediate yes? And sometimes, yes, I get an audible yes or a very confirming feeling. And sometimes I don't get anything. And I'll be like, all right, well, start showing me the signs. And so, and they come in synchronicity, right? Yeah. I had a few years ago, my most memorable one, as I said to the universe, I said, it's probably time for me to go do something, because I've been not doing anything for about 2 months except for meditating. And I'm like, so you know how this works. I'm not super smart, so you're just going to have to smack me upside the head with the sign. So 45 minutes later, I get a call from a recruiter, which is my next job as a training manager. I didn't even apply for it. Literally, I hadn't updated my resume in probably 5 years. So tell me that's not divinely led. Wow. And so, because I asked for the sign to be obvious. Yes. And some people say, well, you're a spiritual person going back to work. I was like, hello, for 3 years, I learned some things that I needed to learn about myself within that job. And I'm able to do a lot of things, especially that's the one that taught me how to run summits online and do all that other kind of stuff that, hey, I kind of need now. And so there's these things where you have to stop and you have to go. And so I just asked for an obvious answer. So, but the first actionable thing is make sure that you check in with yourself and check in with your soul and your divine. And then whatever it is, act on it. And so, and you know what, by the way, I during that time frame, I also said, if this is not what you want me to do, then it's not going to happen, because it has to be divine timing and divine order. Yes. So, and then what happens is that if you get this feeling like you need to act on something, you don't, that's when the energy starts to get backed up in the body and starts to become stagnant. And that'll prevent you from doing your divine plan. So the second actionable thing is really start paying attention to your mood. If you feel complacent, bored, if you're getting irritable all the time, chances are depression means I need to take action somewhere. And so if you're starting to get depressed or that feeling of boredom and complacency and all that other kind of stuff, then it's time to move on to something different. So then, and the third thing I will say is never say absolutes, because I had said to myself, I would never go back to corporate America in 2017. What did I end up doing? Going back because I asked for the sign and I ended up going there. Yeah. Everything has divine timing and divine order. And so you don't know where your soul wants you to be and who you're going to effect.
Yeah.
Within that realm, I gained some of my current clients from that job, and I still are my clients to this day. I helped somebody get promoted, and I helped another person go back to college, and feed their future and stuff like that. So we don't know who we're affecting. So stop worrying about the circumstances and start worrying about the divine plan. So that's three things, three actionable things. One, check in with yourself. Two, follow the signs and ask for the guidance and pay attention to the synchronicities.
Yes.
And three, pay attention to the divine plan and go for that and act on that, because you don't want that energy to be stagnant.
I love that. That is beautiful. Well, this has been a fabulous time, and I know we need to go deeper. Can you let folks know in the interim, where can they find you, Jeremy?
Oh, yep. Storytellingalchemist.com. And if you go there, there's a free audio download called Peace Be Still, just under the tab audio. If you sign up for my newsletter, it sends you back a free meditation. And also, if you go under book now, there's a link to get a 15-minute free booking with me. So my discovery call, I guess we call it.
Oh my gosh, you guys have a whole lot of stuff for free. Did you guys hear all that? So that link is going to be down in the description or the show notes below. And I definitely recommend reaching out. Jeremy, you can hear he's a Pisces trine, so that's why you can feel all that love and that deep wisdom, the deep wisdom that our Pisceans carry. As we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to leave us with in closing?
Yeah, be good to yourself. And it's one of those things. And as you have those moments where you feel down about yourself, pick yourself back up by holding yourself, loving yourself, and saying, hey, you deserve the best of everything. And so if you're good to yourself and you spend more time, you can flip those negative thoughts on your own, really, to be honest with you. But I'm here to help you if you need that. And so is Lisa. So
awesome. Thank you so much. Yes, I second that emotion. Be good to yourself. All right, guys, until next time, peace, love, blessings, and joy be unto you today, tomorrow, and for all eternity. We love you so, so very much, and be good to yourself. Namaste.
thank you. Namaste.